Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome. This is the SkyWire, and my name is Marilyn Shannon. And as always, each and every week, I am smiling from ear to ear to be able to be here and to be able to share with all of you. And so, regardless of whether you are watching us live or you happen to come upon us on YouTube or wherever you are, we are delighted that you're here. And I want to introduce to you today who is here with me. We have this wonderful panel each and every week, and we have some of our panel friends are not here today, but we have, many of us are. So let me introduce Margarita. Hello.
Hello. So happy to be here. You're so amazing.
And thank you. And Jeremy.
Hello.
Hey, Jeremy.
Morning.
And Gail.
Great to be here, as always.
And we have Adelaide, and we have Mark, and this wonderful couple. Oh, how are you?
Oh.
Wow, that was gorgeous.
You know what? We still have to invent with Google Hangouts to be able to kiss us.
You know what? It's probably going to come soon. A dimensional thing where we're not like a film strip, but we're sort of in a room.
In a room.
In a room. Yeah. In a real room, right?
Holographic.
Yeah, exactly. So, a hologram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, every week we pick topics where we delve into this notion of listening, which is bigger than we all can imagine. It's huge. There is no stopping this word. And there's no stopping us when we're in it and when we understand it, when we approach it, when we use it, when we remember to use it. And so one of the things that happens many times to all of us, especially us here, is I pick a topic based on whatever I'm hearing and I post it. And very often somebody doesn't know what we're doing. They just show up. Because they're listening, and they know if they listen, they don't have to know everything. They're just going to show up. And whatever they need to know, they're going to know, and it's perfectly perfect. So today our topic is listening and not knowing. What is the connection? And how do we use listening to feel safe in not always having a plan and knowing? So that's where we're going. For all of you that are listening, watching, please feel free to comment. We'd love to hear from you. We will engage with you, no different than if you were right here in this room with us. So please feel free to do that. So who wants to start? Go ahead, Marguerite, go for it.
Well, I love this idea of the unknown because then I don't have to plan anything. And then I just need to listen to my guidance if I could connect to it at that time. And then my guidance today said, when you look at the lawn with the grass growing, imagine that you're seeing this grass growing and listen to it. It's the similar way, because everything in the universe, there is happening all over the place. But if we can focus on something like, okay, the grass is growing, we know it's growing, it's safe. And if you listen to another person, think of that grass growing and just sit back and look at it, feel it, and listen to it. Then you're going to, I think, listen in a much better way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep, when you were saying that, I was thinking, listening is living. You're not sitting there planning and you're actually engaged in the moment, and that's what it is, and that's what living and enjoying life is all about. Mark.
Oh, your introduction, Marilyn, immediately sent me back to school days when I just sat and listened and received, and I didn't have to know anything right then. Maybe later, but right then, just listen, just receive. And it was an extremely safe, secure kind of position because all I had to do was listen, and good stuff was going to happen. That has its downsides too, as a way of life, perhaps, to take authority in that same kind of way. But there's a lovely feeling about that safety and security of just being able to be receptive and not have to be called upon to do anything. Yeah.
What an interest! That was so interesting. Also, you know why? Because when you're kids, you don't know about the future,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't really plan.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting? So I see that Stan Bush is with us, and he said, "Pretty sure that wasn't a hologram kiss." Well, if it was, you would have felt it. I would have felt it. We all would have felt it. Thank you, Stan. Welcome. We're glad to have you here, and thanks for commenting.
I would like to say,
go ahead.
yeah, I would like to add something, because I think our biggest problem is not to know. We humans always want to know. And this in one way is good, because we learn. We learn more things and so. But when the wanting to know comes into a fixed idea of how things have to be, then, then we have a problem. We try to make the world, to adapt the world to our ideas instead of the other way around, that we need to adapt to how the world is. And so we said always in the training I did, in the coach training, becoming comfortable with not knowing. I think this is a big, big, big learning topic for us all today. And what Margarita said, connecting to this voice in you, which maybe doesn't know exactly, but has always the direction, knows where the direction is, and can decide this step, the next step, is the right one, or that would be the wrong one. So that we go from one step to the other without needing to know where exactly we are headed to. We called it the North Star. We know where the North Star is, and we try to go there, yeah, and adapt our route to arrive there in every moment. And for that, we actually do need listening and be open.
That's another really interesting perspective, because if you think about having to know, and you spend so much time listening to make something happen, as opposed to listening for it to flow. And when we listen to maybe make something happen, maybe we create the know, and it's not really the know that we're really needing to tap into.
I would actually say that it is not even listening if you want to make happen something.
Exactly.
I wouldn't call it listening. I would more saying you are deaf. You have the inner and outer ears closed.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Let me ask you something before Gail and Jeremy go. Heidi, do you have the comment tracker up?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So let me know when there's something we want to...
Yeah, here is Stan has a comment, so I can bring that up. If you white box me, then it comes on the big screen for everybody. And he says, the truth is, we could feel it, and so in a way it was a hologram. I mean, it was about the kiss, I guess, but in a different sense. That's what I got out of it. You don't have to be there to feel something. Oh, this is so true.
Oh my God, that is a brilliant statement. That's brilliant, because we did. Hologram would mean that we were there. That was brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So, Gail?
I think everything that everybody said was wonderful. And I'm going to try and sort of like encapsulize it with the not knowing and the listening. And I think that in order to truly be able to listen, we have to be in that not knowing space. Because the minute we think we know, the listening gets cut off. And that's really what Heidi was just saying.
That's right. Exactly. Wow, yes, exactly. Good. Is that it, Gail?
For now.
Okay. All right, Jeremy. Take it away.
we like Heidi said, we do have a desire to know everything, but I think we have to, we find we have to listen to what's unexpected, and if we do that, we'll be surprised both in good and bad ways. But I think if we are listening for the what we don't know, then we have more flexibility and can adjust. If life takes us on a different path, we have to be brave enough to pursue that, and flexible enough to, switch course and to, try to listen to make sure that it's the right course.
So that's very true, and that takes me to my next question, which we've touched upon before, but we haven't, and we've always said, well, let's do a show about that. So now we can combine it with this. So in trusting yourself, how can we help people that are listening to us, that will listen to us in the future and whatever? How can we help people understand how to trust the not knowing, trusting yourself to not know, and to whatever, to what comes? It sounds so, just do what comes, but people have a hard time with that. So what would you say to support people in that? Margarita, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. When I coach my clients, I say when they don't know something, go into the heart and listen. But if that doesn't work, then I'm guiding them to go and feel their feet, or even take off their shoes and socks and then just touch the floor or the ground underneath. Or even we go outside and touch a tree and then feel into that tree or plant or flower. And that usually does it, because it sinks our energy into our body. We must need to be in the body to actually listen properly. And so that physical touch, or even rubbing your skin or massaging your head and then tapping down on the front of the body, makes us be more grounded. Because many people have very big problems with being spaced out and living in some reality in their head. This is what I would say.
That's a good point. So being in the moment helps you listen in any way almost that you can get there, by physical touch, by touching something, sometimes I've told people, drink a glass of water. Whatever, take a sip of something, just get back in your body. So that's one thing. That's one way to practice listening in general, is to get into your body, to be grounded. So now who else has another suggestion? Go ahead, Heidi.
I would say you cannot listen to the real deeper voice when the outside voice, how can I say, on the surface voices are chatting all the time. So you need to find a way to calm down. It doesn't mean that you have to completely be void of thoughts. That's not. But that the thoughts don't occupy your awareness all the time, so that you have a sort of, how do you say, getting slower, and your mind gets slower, and actually the brain waves get slower,
Deeper.
And deeper and slower, and find a way. Yesterday in our show of the Wisdom Factory, there was a person who is doing awake technology. This is his brand, and he is offering audio, listening to certain audios which are calming you down, which are making more quiet your whole system. I agree completely with Margarita to first try with the body, because I think it's enormously important that we feel our whole body, and not only outside but inside, and the whole us, the whole me, the whole I. But there are ways. Meditation is one, but normally it takes a long time until it really gives results. And these technologies can give you results that you feel much calmer. You feel in a different state of consciousness. And when you are in this different, more quiet state of consciousness, this is when you really can open up. Because otherwise, when it's crowded inside, what can come in? Nothing can come in, because it's already everything, every place is occupied. You first have to create space for something to come in.
Right. Right. Good points. That's really, yeah, that's good points. This is important. And so for anybody that's listening now, what we're talking about is the comfort you get. And maybe it's not always comfortable. Maybe there's a challenge or an opportunity that's not always comfortable in not knowing. But you know that when you're listening, and you know that when you are a listener, that whatever you need, you're going to get. Whatever information, there's a reason for it. And it's all okay. And now what we're talking about is how do we get to that point? Through trust. How do you get to listen? And so we're starting with, Marguerite said, about getting grounded, feeling your body, practicing, touching yourself, awakening yourself to being in the now. And then, of course, Heidi mentioned meditation. And Mark, what are you going to say?
Oh, I was I was going to confess to a difficult night last night. I awoke at 3 o'clock and just laid there, and the head started going over everything I had to do today, tomorrow, next week. And, it was absolutely overwhelming if I didn't intervene in some way in this process. And I have experienced these kinds of nights often enough to know that by 5:30 or 6 o'clock, I feel completely different and fine. But there is this turmoil that goes on. And it would be a mistake for me, with the experience I've had, to say there's something wrong with the turmoil being there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. It's just the yin or the yang going back and forth, and it has to happen. It's not always pleasant, but it doesn't disturb me in the way it used to when I took these worries so seriously.
You don't listen to them anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In this case, I don't listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Right. But you see, there's messages in everything, right? And there's like we talked about last week in the gap. There's so much to gain from being in that gap, or even what we used to term as worrisome. There's a message in there.
Yeah.
So if we attach the word worry to it, then we don't want to go there. But if we attach something else to it, like gift, or what am I going to learn here, or what's the problem I'm trying to solve? What is that thing I'm trying to figure out? A problem doesn't have to be devastating. It's an issue. Mm-hmm. Just like, we all try to solve problems. That's why we're doing the work we're doing. There's an issue. We're trying to help make things better. So good points. And I know, Heidi, is there something else to put up?
Yeah, there's a long comment. I just wanted to comment on what you said. The thing is to change perspective, and that can change the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is Stan. It's a very long comment. Let me see. That won't come up everything. So the recommendation is to create shorter comments so then they can go up on the screen. He says, absolutely, to Margarita, everything around you is the stuff that you have created, even the bad stuff. To say that someone else created the bad stuff means you aren't taking responsibility for your own space. Julia Cameron refers to it as getting rid of the crazies. The more you get rid of them, the less uncreative or destructive space we have in your own reality. Recognizing them is powerful stuff. For example, GMO appears as a great thing, but in fact it is very destructive in so many ways. It's impossible to list. Exactly. You need to include as many perspectives as you can to see what it really is. This is our idea, about integral way of looking at the things. Not only one thing. GMO is good, for the farmers in some way, but not for the earth, not for us, for nobody else.
For somebody.
Exactly.
For somebody it's good, who is earning on that. But for the rest of the world it's not.
Yeah. So part of what we're doing here is listening to allow everything to come in. Mm-hmm. And then through listening, we trust what part of this we want to take. So Gail?
Okay, two things. One, I first wanted to comment on Mark. I know those middle of the night demons, everything, all those worries and thoughts come in, and I mean, I've been there where it seems like, oh my gosh, it's like this tragic thing, and then you wake up in the morning and the whole thing is just like ridiculous, just worry. So it really comes down to, in this respect, what do you choose? What do you choose to listen to? Which voice do you listen to? Do you listen to the worry, or do you listen to that true inner wisdom, the true guidance that's coming? So there is a choice of which not to listen to. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is to respond to your question, Marilyn. I'm focusing a little bit more on the trust aspect of it. That sort of everything that you said, that aspect of the question jumped out to me. So I guess maybe I had a listening for that aspect. But I think about trust a lot, and I think with being able to trust yourself and trust the messages, nobody, a person can't trust just because somebody else tells you to. Somebody could say, oh, do meditation or do yoga or do whatever. I think it has to come from your own internal experience of having trusted before and knowing that you can trust it. Just like knowing that when you jump into the water, you will be held up. So start small. Start with you get a message that comes to you like whatever, have this for lunch, or whatever it is. Start small and trust that, and see how by trusting things did work out. You got what you needed. And then go, then another message might come in, and then try something a little bit more scary or a little bit more not knowing, because each time you trust, and I'm really just speaking from my own personal experience now, each time I've trusted, I've gained strength in knowing that I can trust, and that these messages that come in, that they can be trusted. And the more you do it, the more it builds up, and then some really, really difficult things will come up. But you'll know from past experience that, yes, I can trust my own inner wisdom. So it's a process.
So, and Jeremy, you may not want to answer this, and somebody else may or may not, but so I wonder, from listening to what Gail just said, is it possible that it's not even, so when you listen, it's not even how much more you listen, it's when you listen, right? Because that's what listening is. When you listen, do we then have choices? Or are there no choices when you listen? How deep and how quick listening comes, and then there's no need for a choice.
Well, that's like choiceless awareness. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term. It's like this paradox or this dichotomy, because I think there's always a choice. We always have a choice, whether we respond this way or that way. But when that listening comes in and it's really pure, it's almost as if we don't have a choice, because it's almost like it's happening to us.
Yeah, we don't need a choice.
Right, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
Right. So it's so interesting, because that's why I do want to do this work so much, is I want to get to that depth of listening. I don't know what there is. This just hit me, about no choices. I don't know what there is, but I think that when you're in those, that liminal space of listening, when you're in that clarity of listening, you don't even, it just, the choices just, there isn't any, I think.
I agree with you, but I just think it's always really important to remember that we always are making a choice, even though it might seem as if we're not, that we are, because I think it comes down to choices that we make every second of every minute of every day, because it's each in those little choices that's how our life is created. That's the fabric of our life. And to start thinking that we don't have a choice, I think that's too easy to get into a sort of like a victim mentality or predetermination or
yeah, no, but maybe listening is the choice.
yes. There you, yeah, no, you're right. It's
You know,
right. Yes.
I don't know, but I see she has a comment. But hold on a second, I want to get to Jamie first. Jeremy, I'm sorry. Jeremy, go.
That's okay. I think I would say sometimes we need to drop everything and listen. We talk about drop everything and read, but I think if we drop everything and listen in a spontaneous sense, we're going to notice things that we wouldn't otherwise notice. I guess for me, sometimes I use music to do that, to bring my focus back to what I'm missing. And I think if you talk about the depth of listening, I at least have to ask myself, what am I missing? What can I fill in the blanks on at a deeper level? And if you can start doing that, then you're looking at different layers of listening, and then you are getting to the depth as a listener. But I think in order to do that, the trust is tied to integrity, and if you're going to have integrity as a listener, I think we have to ask ourselves, what am I missing? Because we're not listening 100% of the time. Maybe we're listening 50% or more on a good day, maybe more than that if we have to, but I think a lot of times it might be less than that. So,
and of course you have to, it's all connected. So that's a good point. What am I missing? If you know, but you want to be in a strong place within yourself, a trusting, strong place within yourself to be able to ask yourself, what am I missing? And not take it personally. Take it as, you know, what am I missing is a message. So that's really, this show is great, by the way. I want to compliment all of you because this is really great. And I want to compliment everybody that's been sending in messages because they're not short on the comment stream. So I know it's taking you some time and you really care about what you're writing and about what you're saying and expressing. So I want to acknowledge you all for that. And I see that Heidi has one to share. So we're going to put it up, Heidi.
Okay, go. I'm going to be reading it. It's from Dave Moore, who's got other things posted also. But this one says, one of the most life-changing and transformational things you can do is to look yourself directly in the eyes in a mirror and say, everything in my life right now, the good and the bad, is down to me. It all stems from the things I've done, the choices I've made, the responses I've given. Nothing more, nothing less.
Beautiful.
And then there's another. We have hundreds of choices through the day, but we have to realize that they sometimes appear dressed in a way we would not normally recognize. Our job is to spot them, unwrap them, and see them for what they really are.
And that means listening.
Something like that, yes.
Yes, that's exactly. And so, Dave, I know you couldn't be here today, but we love you, we miss you, and you'll be here soon. And maybe Stan would like to join us sometimes. That would be fun. So thank you both very much. And anybody else that's listening, watching, please feel free to comment to us. These are really good comments. And what we're talking about is the listening and not knowing. Listening to trust yourself, not to know when you know, or to know when you know what you know, or whatever.
There's the other comment from Stan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stan writes, for your information, I'm listening now rather than commenting. It's exactly as Adelheid Hernlein described earlier. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah.
I agree, of course.
Yes. You better. Okay, so who's got a question or a thought? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking when Gail said about making choices, it reminded me of the Indian grandfather who talked with his grandson, and he says something like, you know, we have these two wolves inside. One is doing good things, and the other one is saying bad things. And then the grandchild says, but who will I listen to? The one you feed. And so I think that when we're actually making a choice to listening to the voice we have inside, and that voice could be being open to hear other people too, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're listening only to our inner self-talk and integrating and thinking, how can I listen and what can I respond, and all of this crappy listening kind of thing that goes on in our mind. But if we choose to put attention and have that arrow hitting the target, like Dave Moore showed a picture here, uh, if we choose to pay attention to the unknown, to that space where we don't know anything about, that is putting our attention and energy on that. And that's the very reason for when we actually are listening truly. And the other person in front of us feels it because it's an energy field that now is open. It's not closed. Okay, otherwise it's like a little opening here for other people to come in or a little opening here. Now it's open.
Mhm. So, I think it's interesting to see how did each and every one of us get on this listening journey? Because it wasn't always easy. How did you, what was the experience? How did you start to trust yourself, to take it another step, to take it a little deeper? How did you build your self-esteem, to be able to allow yourself this joy, to be here? Was it a certain book that you read? What was it that helped you accomplish so much to be able to understand the power of listening? Has anything to add to that?
I'll go.
Okay.
And I want to just piggyback off of what Margarita said, because
Okay.
it really applies to my whole life journey and process around what you just asked about, but about which one should you listen to, the one that you feed. Oh my gosh, I mean, that is so true, and that's why this is a lifetime work. You don't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're a listener. It's like, and it's making those choices. Who am I going to feed? You know what I mean? Am I going to feed all those, negative internal voices, those non-trusting voices? Am I going to put my energy there? Am I going to feed that? Or am I going to choose to feed that inner knowing, that voice of wisdom that always guides me, and the one that I can trust that my needs will always be met? And so to just take this my own personal self, because this has been my journey and my struggle and my life calling and my victory. Like, I was always one of these people where my intuition came in loud and clear. I was always this channel. I always heard it, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. My problem was that I didn't trust it, which meant that I wasn't trusting myself, because I've learned from experience that when I trust, it's one and the same thing. When I trust my intuition, I'm trusting myself, and when I don't, I'm not. And I lived like that for a long time, and that's a painful way to live. Walk around not trusting yourself, like these negative voices would come up, these voices of doubt, and put myself down, and I just felt like I was always somehow living just below my level of full potential, the joy that I could experience and the things that I have to contribute to life. It was a real struggle for me. But yet, I always had this other voice. As I said, I always heard that intuition. I just didn't trust it. And it was always there. And it was always telling me, hey, come on, you can do it. You're a wonderful person. You have so much to contribute. And you have so much to give other people. And you're a beautiful person. And, it's like I didn't want to be in so much pain. Like, somehow I just knew that truly being who I am, it can't be so painful. Something's not right about this. And my intuition led me to make a commitment to trust my intuition more and more. And so it's been a process, But through that, I feel like I have really come to discover who I really am through listening to my intuition, and who I am as a powerful person, and it's been a journey. I have problems like the rest of us, and I make mistakes, but it's just like, it's just kind of it's like a way of life. And I've come to realize that for myself, it's almost like it really is my calling in life part of my, like, my purpose in life is really to explore this whole conversation that we're talking about today, and to share it. I mean, I've written 2 books on the subject already. Part of the first book that I wrote really came out of that deep struggle that I have with not trusting myself. And when I was on that journey, part of what happened to me is like this book just came out of me. I could not write this book. And it's called Your Heart Knows the Answer, How to Trust Yourself and Make the Choices That Are Right for You. And it all just came out of that struggle that I had to actually trust myself. So I think it's also an example about how our vulnerabilities can actually, that they really are our greatest strengths. And that's been my journey.
That's wonderful. And you started me thinking about what I'm going to say next. So, but I'm going to ask Heidi and Mark to chime in at this point.
I would like to share a story which I really, the first time, realized that I can trust myself. And this is in extreme situations. For instance, when I had an accident with a car, even twice, and I did exactly the right thing, without thinking, without anything, but it was this sort of intuition which knows, and I wasn't hurt anything. And so later on, with experience, I understood when it's really important moments, extreme situations, let's say, then I know what to do. And I can trust myself that I know what to do without pondering, But in the situations which are not so extreme, I can always think about it, and and then the thought that, oh, maybe it's not so, and we begin to create the stories, and then it's where the non-trust is sitting. And this actually, as you said, Gail, it is a lifelong journey. But when I did my coaches training and began 5 years ago, then I finally found the modality which allowed me to have trust in myself. And if I hadn't had it, I wouldn't be here, for instance, now, because it needs a certain amount of trust in yourself to, be comfortable here talking. But we can get it, because underneath there is one voice in us who is the trusting, which is the trusting voice, and the only thing is that we need to grow it, to feed it, and to listen to that one instead of all the others who say, oh, no, I should better, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's a journey, but if you know where you want to go, you can go. That's my experience.
Great. Mark?
Oh, I'm not talking about any kind of verbal experience now, but I have had several occasions when I have, over the years, I have tripped, I have fallen, sometimes, surprisingly long ways, and there is no thinking, there's nothing to say except, wah! Perhaps.
And it's an experience.
Yeah, and I don't hurt myself. I have some injuries that have accumulated, but by and large, considering the way, and she will tell you, the way I move about on this terrain here, I have a sense that my body knows how to take care of me, and I don't have to. If I had to do it, it would get screwed up. So there's another kind of listening and trusting that's going on here that is at a pre-verbal, cognitive, pre-conceptual kind of level. It's just body wisdom. And so wonderful to realize that this body takes care of me, you know. I don't have to worry about so much. It just happens. And that's a wonderful kind of trust to feel. Walk out the door feeling that way.
And it may not be another listening. It may be the listening we are listening to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, Jeremy?
Well, I reached a pivotal point in my life last year where I realized, I've had people tell me that I'm a good listener, and, maybe sometimes that's accurate, but sometimes it's not. But I found myself telling people, you're not listening to me. Why isn't anybody listening to me? And I think part of the reason why is I stopped listening to other people. And it's kind of I guess I would say it's a practice makes perfect thing. If you let your listening ability atrophy, you're not going to be able to listen at as deep a level or as perceptively as you would otherwise. And so I guess part of it is just realizing that it's a critical communication skill, and without practicing it and working to develop it, I just couldn't take my life to the next level where I wanted to be. So I'm trying to flex my listening muscles and get them back to where they were before. But I hope to be able to listen at a much deeper level, and hopefully that will encourage people to listen to me in a better sense too.
Well, I think you're already there. So, it's interesting because some of us have been sharing some personal experiences, and I feel different today. Coming to do this show, and we've been doing this show, which we figured out a year. So we're in our year anniversary, and we're gonna, for everybody that's listening, we're gonna have a party on a Google Hangout in the next coming weeks. But this is about a year, and I would come every day that we did the show, like my whole morning was devoted to a way of thinking, a way of, not that I had to know everything, but just preparing, making sure my camera was right, making sure my computer was hooked up right, making sure this was right, that was right, being here before anybody else got into the room, just making sure it was all like in order and in integrity. And this morning, I decided I didn't have to be here that early. It was all going to be taken care of just perfectly fine. And so I came early enough, but I wasn't sitting here just waiting to hook up. I hooked up when the time was right, and I'm so at ease, and I feel differently than I have felt this whole year. And it's really about how listening does help, has helped me evolve. And it is just showing how it is a practice. It is how we, we evolve, we transform through listening. I am free today, freer than I've ever been. And that hell, oh my God, hold on to your seatbelts, because I'm free, and I feel freer. And so that's an incredible feeling for me. Incredible. So that you can keep getting freer. And you keep on learning, and you keep on getting deeper and more honest, more expressive, more willing to show up here. And like Gail said, I've made mistakes. Well, I've made lessons, and mistakes happen, and, and whatever. And I think showing this to the world and having the world listen is so keen on how the world can go forward, and why it's so important that people listen, and how we're here talking about these things that are just like, if you just, like almost on a surface make no sense, because it's only the thought of the depth of it that is so relevant, that when you really get to that heartbeat of it. So I feel extremely free, and I'm not feeling worried about anything, about not having the comment thing go right or whatever. It all works out. So I want to thank you, Marguerite. Oh, do we have a comment up there now?
Yeah, there is one from Dave Moore.
Mm-hmm.
A long one again. I don't know if it shows up everything. Do you want to read?
Sure. Nobody can be sure of what another person is thinking, but we can see the results of their thoughts in their actions. This is a case of the invisible creating the visible. Without thought, action will not occur. The roots create the fruit. If the fruit action is bad, don't polish the fruit. Tend to the roots. Tend to what is hidden and visible, what is below the surface, the thought process.
That's beautiful. So I think my question is, can you feel each other? Like when we started and Mark and Heidi kissed each other, and Stan made a point of saying, you know, kind of like he felt it. So can you feel the changes in each other through how we've experienced? Because many of us have been together for almost a year. I know, Jeremy, you're newer to the panel, but not so new. So can you feel the change in me? Can you feel the change in each other? Marguerite.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an empath, right, working with healing, so I've had that as a default state, which I forget sometimes. And so that's what I do. But that doesn't mean that I can listen fully, tune in fully, because, you know, when there is a lot of energies around you, it's a lot of energy. If you just listen to words, that's one thing. But if you're going to listen to all of these energy imprints that's going on in the ethers, in the environment, or over the internet even, it's kind of difficult to keep that focus. And that's what I suggested, to actually choose to feed that voice. And, you know, and of course, when we tune in, right, when I tuned in with Heidi and Mark, which I love and respect very much, then my opening gate is wider. I could take in that further. But if I have an unknown person, I have to sort of test it out and feel it out, if it's good, if it's bad, and then I do this sort of kind of judgment thing inside. And then when I want to actually listen to that person, I open wide. But you remember, if they say something or their energy is in a certain way, it can hurt too, right? So I think the process of listening without barrier is to remove our fears. Like Dave Moore said, cut those roots off that makes fear come
That's
up.
right. Exactly.
Deal with those inner deepest fear, and then you could be a better person. And if you model that, anyone, then it's the way that we can help each other.
Yes.
That's what I think.
That was beautiful, because really you're listening to get past those twigs.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening really to get past that. Those twigs are like, okay, here's a twig. So I know that if I'm listening, that I'm not stopping at that twig.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm listening, and I've had a taste of the power, just like we've talked about so much of the power of listening, that we are listening for, and that we've had a taste of. Then we're not. Then the twig is not where the listening is supposed to stop us. It's supposed to take us much deeper than that. So that was beautiful. Yeah.
I have another comment about that. Yesterday, I went in the garden and I was trimming and weeding, and there is roses there, right? So I trimmed off the old canes that was prickly, and of course, if I didn't pay attention, I pricked my hand several times. But in the process of doing that, I discovered that on the other side, in the other flower bed, there was 5 new shoots of roses that I hadn't seen before. So I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to make more space for that. And then I took, you know, the bamboo canes that I have in the garage, and I put it up like a tripod. Mm-hmm. And then this morning when I went out and I said, wow, these roses are responding to me. And I can feel their energy, and then they have something to grow on. I mean, this is just a simple example of paying attention and choosing to act, listen, and then act, and then manifest it, right? And then it comes back.
And it comes back. So let me tell you, from my listening and from being listening in the show, Marguerite, and this is what I'm going to say, is that you show up each and every week. So that tells me something. My listening is telling me that you are somebody that you can depend on and somebody that's going to show up. And when you need somebody, you're there. That's one of the things that I know from your behavior and how you show up that I've listened to. And I want to thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Jeremy.
Well, I think I'm thinking about icebergs with listening for the unknown. Sometimes we're just listening to the top of the iceberg, but I think we need to listen for everything that's below the surface. And I think a lot of the things below the surface I've missed. But I know, being on this panel and having communication with all of you, it's created a powerful synergy for me. Encourage more creativity, and I don't know. It's like an energy boost. It's like plugging yourself into an electric grid and feeling empowered in ways that you haven't felt empowered in a while. So I want to thank all of you for that, including the members of the panel that aren't here today. I know a lot of them have had a great impact on improving my creativity too. So, and thank you, Marilyn, especially. You've really been very helpful to all of us, I think.
Thank you. And I thank you. And I want to say, Jeremy, one thing, you just said something about missing, and I'm wondering if we don't miss anything, that whatever it is will come back. And if we don't get it in a particular time, that's not what we were meant to get. We were meant to be on some journey, and you were meant to be led to us, and we were led to be led to you. And you are an extraordinary listener, because you can sit there and take it all in and sum it up in one line. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you're an extraordinary listener, because you take your lessons and you go. Gail.
That's beautiful. Actually, I wanted to comment about you, Marilyn. You were saying how you feel free and how this whole year has given you so much. You know that I've commented that to you personally. I've told you that I've seen how much you. I don't even know how I expressed it, but I remember you asked me, well, what do you mean? But I've seen you just like I know what I said. I said that the listening has gotten so much deeper. I mean, I have really seen that with you, especially like in the last, I don't know, 3 months or so. It's really been incredible. And so just to really bring that actually back to what we were talking about today but it goes for all of us and everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
It's like, it's really being in the not knowing and just staying there that allows us to grow with the listening. We can't do it because the minute we think we have the answers, like we were saying before, it just gets shut off. And I was just thinking about, Mark, at the very beginning of the show, the first thing you said, you were talking about how when you were in school and the listening was so safe. And I never really thought about it in that particular way that you expressed it before, like being a young boy in school and sitting at the desk and everything. I don't know, it just struck me. It's very beautiful. It was very profound because, in a way, not knowing, it can be a scary place because we don't know what's happening. We're really taught all the time, we want closure and we want to know what's happening. We want conclusions. It's not really, like, how do you say it? We're not really, we don't get points for being open, for being open. But really, it is scary not to know what's happening, but like, the paradox of it, what's so profound is that when we really trust that being in the not knowing, we're in the safest place we could possibly be, because we will get exactly what we need, which is what we've been saying all along, throughout the show. So,
well, that was a good one too. That was a really good one. And I want to say to you, Gail, you have you have a way of being vulnerable. That you have showed me how to be so vulnerable. You have a way of sharing exactly what's going on, and with you personally, that has really set a really nice bar. I mean, you always manage to share that, and also, whenever you're in the show, there's always something that happens that is like, what? Something that just goes perfectly with it. It's always something that coincides with your life, and that really has made a difference. So I want to really thank you for that. And Mark and Heidi?
Oh, I have a thank you, and that would be all of you have taught me how little I listen. There is so much more going on in the show and in what everyone says than I actually take in and process and shut my mind off long enough to really, really listen. And it's a gift, sort of one of those backwards gifts where I'm learning that I have a good deal more to learn about listening. And thanks to the show. And Marilyn, you must have been doing an awful lot of listening this past year. Wow.
You've all been saying a lot of stuff. Heidi? And I'm going to come back to Mark in a minute, but Heidi.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm glad that he came, because you invited Mark right at the beginning. I was on your show maybe a month or so, and he just came and said hello, and you said, Mark, come. And no, he didn't want to. He was there even sleeping on the sofa, and he didn't want to come. And so slowly, and now he's really interested in his court, and thank you, really, everybody. For a while, he was sitting there pretending to be on his computer, but he was listening.
Quiet. Shush.
Well, it's interesting because Mark has brought such perspective that I would say, Mark, you're extraordinary, because you have brought some perspectives here that have been like, wow, that is brilliant. So, and just your overall beingness, and how you share like this, your humanness, beingness, and your loveness is just really great. And Heidi, the way you receive it and the respect that you have for him, I think is marvelous.
Oh.
And the way you both, it's beautiful. And this is stuff that, I'm not making this up. So, before we go, because we only have another few minutes, I see that Dave has written something, and Heidi, you want to bring it up? I think there's one or two things there.
Two things, yeah.
Here is you must white box me. He says, when someone witnesses your thought process, how you get the answer to an unexpected question, they sometimes learn more from seeing the process than they do from an answer.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, and then there's another one. He says, people underestimate the power and strength in vulnerability. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
But it depends it's my idea, whom you show the vulnerability, because there are people who exactly take you and strangle you when it must be in a safe place. I mean, you must feel safe and confident that nothing can happen to you,
Right. And that's what happens when you listen. And you're surrounded by people who are, may not even know that that's what they call it, but they're evolving themselves. They're working on themselves. If you're working on yourself to the power and the level that people want to and are, you're gonna listen more, even if you don't give it the word. So I want to thank everybody for being here today, and for everybody that's been listening, participating, and for all of you that are listening for the first time. We'll be here again and again and again and again, and we'll be coming again and again and again with not knowing what we're doing. So that's the fun of it. Yeah.
Be doing.
Yeah. So if you want to come to something and not know what you're coming to, come here. So with that, we're going to say goodbye for now. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. And for Stan and Dave and everybody that's out there, thank you for being here. Bye.